What do elves make sandwiches with?
What?
Shortbread.
Is that a short joke?
Maybe.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast, where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we are talking about the genetics of taste.
Nerdy.
Woohoo!
Science.
Let's talk about it.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
Hey Sharon, how's your week been?
It's been great.
Yeah?
How's your week been?
It's been pretty good too. Did you eat anything fun this week?
I made awesome breakfast sandwiches.
Oh, yay for breakfast. First of all, and two, you made breakfast sandwiches.
Yes.
So what made them special?
I didn't use bacon or sausage in my breakfast sandwich
Why not?
because I had creminelli prosciutto to use.
Oh, yeah.
So we used the prosciutto instead.
And that's the stuff that comes in the trays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I bet that would be really
So
good. I don't think I've ever had prosciutto on a breakfast sandwich.
I kind of don't want to ever go back.
Really? Why was it that special? I mean, the prosciutto's good, but I've never thought to have it on a breakfast sandwich.
Well, because all the textures are the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're all a little bit soft. And so when you I prefer bacon usually, but I like my bacon extra crispy.
Yeah.
And then when you bite into it in a breakfast sandwich, sometimes it just kind of falls apart.
Right.
This did not, but I still got the flavor that I wanted. Not quite like bacon, but I think it's really good. So it was delicious.
Wonderful.
With an over easy egg. And it's also delicious with a scrambled egg.
So either or was a good option.
Yes.
Creminelli, their prosciutto is really good, people.
So good.
If you have not had them before, you're
Check
missing
them
out.
out. They're sold at Starbucks everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere.
And their salamis and other cured meats are to die for. They're so good.
They are.
We just let the prosciutto come up to room temperature, and then we just put it cold on the sandwich, but the egg heats it up. And
so
it was
it's just
really
the
good.
right amount.
Yeah, it was delicious.
That sounds delightful, because their prosciutto is really delightful.
Yeah. What did you eat this week?
Well, I tried to be ambitious this week.
Oh?
And I talked about, I think, making a cheesecake, my first cheesecake, right? A while back.
So fun.
And it was good, and I really enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, I can make another cheesecake. I think I can make another cheesecake.
What kind of cheesecake did you make?
So I made one specifically for somebody in our family who happens to have a similar birthday as somebody in our family. So we decided to make an eggnog cheesecake. So it has kind of that gingery, yummy flavor, right? And it had a ginger snap crust. It was really good.
That sounds awesome.
Now, I think the only thing that did not go well was that I didn't have the right size pan. So my cooking time was like, I have a kind of a smaller diameter pan, but it's taller.
Oh, okay.
It took a lot longer to cook.
Did you do the water bath?
No, I didn't. Once again, I did not do a water bath, and everybody keeps scolding me for that.
Did it crack?
It did have some cracks, but I'm like, meh, whatever.
Still tastes good.
I'm gonna eat it. So, but I did find this on a website called Rose Bakes, and you can too. And it was, like I said, it's the eggnog cheesecake with their ginger snap crust. And I will tell you this right now, the ginger snap crust was my favorite. Like the cheesecake part was fine and good. It had, eggnog, whatever. Okay. Some people love it, but the ginger snap crust was where it was at. It was so good.
Yeah.
It was.
I made the only cheesecake I've ever made is a pumpkin cheesecake with a ginger snap crust.
I bet that was a nice pairing too.
It was delicious.
Yeah. Ginger snaps.
That's where it's at.
Oh yeah, totally.
And now for the main course.
So, Winter, the genetics of taste.
It's going to be so awesome. This was actually a topic that was requested by one of our listeners.
Who requested it?
It was by Nina from Paint the Kitchen Red. We talked about her recently, and she was the one. She's like, Winter, you need to talk about this. I was like, okay, let's talk about it. So that's why we were talking about this. So, hey, Nina, thanks for suggesting this.
Thanks, Nina. So let's get down to it. We're talking about taste and genetics. and how those exactly go together.
Yeah. Let's break it down. We haven't really talked about the tongue before.
No, we haven't. There's a few things to know when we're talking about taste. We need to know what the palate is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the roof of your mouth. It's your sense of taste.
Okay.
So it's the complex of smell, taste, and touch receptors can contribute to your palate, the ability to recognize and appreciate flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And those things attribute to the range of someone's recognition and appreciation of the different flavors that there are. And there's about 5 flavors. Typically, the Western cultures only recognize usually about 4. But as Asian cuisine has influenced Western cooking,
Mm-hmm.
we now recognize 5.
Tell me what the tastes are. And I feel like we're in elementary school.
Yes, we
Right.
are. Do you remember when you learned about all the senses?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the tongue was always fascinating to me because they always said, this is where the bitter taste is, and this is where the salty taste is, and this is where the sweet is usually tasted.
Yeah.
Is that different now?
Well, some people believe now that it's a little bit more mixed up. So the salt or the sweet isn't necessarily always on the tip of your tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on your taste buds, it could be at the back or in the middle. But flavor is defined as an identifiable distinctive quality in a drink, food, or other substance perceived with the combined senses of taste, touch, and smell. Those 3 senses make up flavor.
A flavor. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that makes sense. When you're putting something in your mouth, you will smell it beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely contributes because when I've had a stuffy nose, I don't really want to eat as much because I can't smell anything.
Yeah, you can't taste it as
yeah,
well.
Yeah. And then the mouth feel of something definitely contributes because there are things that I love the mouth feel for and other things that I'm like,
Right. And when we talk about mouthfeel, we're talking about the sensation that's created inside your mouth by the combination of a food's taste, the smell, the texture, and the temperature.
for sure.
So if you're drinking hot chocolate, say, or a tea,
Mm-hmm.
that can contribute to the mouthfeel. So the 5 tastes. So taste is the sensation that's detected when substances come in contact with the taste buds on your tongue. So when we talk about the 5 tastes, we're talking about sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami.
Umami.
Yeah. So sweet is probably the one that everybody knows and loves.
I've got a sweet
sugar,
tooth. Yeah, I've got a
right?
sweet tooth.
It can be the most pleasurable taste. But the funny thing about it is that the fewer sweet tasting foods you consume, the more enhanced this taste can become. So when you do eat a sweet food, you can identify right away, like, wow, there's sugar in that, even if there's only a little bit,
Okay.
because you've been depriving yourself so long of that taste.
Okay.
And it can be enhanced with a tiny bit of a sour taste or bitter or salt. So think something like semi-sweet chocolate chips.
Uh-huh.
Those are a little bit sweeter, say, than a milk chocolate chip that's just all sweet, because you have just a tiny bit of acid, tiny bit of...
Did you say that it was a little sweeter?
Yeah, some people can sense that the sweetness is enhanced when you put a little bit of an opposite flavor with it.
Oh, okay. I see what
like
you're
a
saying.
semi-sweet chip.
Yeah, because okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the reasons why that's the most commonly used chocolate chip when you're baking with a cookie.
I like a semi-sweet chocolate chip too.
Because everything comes back down to chocolate chip cookies for
Yeah.
me. So sour is considered the opposite of sweet, and it's found in acidic foods. So think something like currants or sour cream.
Okay.
This flavor is also enhanced when you put it with a little bit of sweet. The sour taste is more enhanced.
I don't really like super sour things. I'm one of those people that super puckers up whenever I eat super gummy sour things that people want me to eat sometimes. And I'm like, no, no.
Just the insides of your mouth just kind of squeeze in.
Just thinking about it, I'm like, ugh.
And then there's salty.
Mm-hmm.
There's salt. So that can be used to heighten the flavors in a dish, just the other flavors.
Mm-hmm.
So dishes that lack salt can often taste flat. There's not really a depth of different flavors going on. It just kind of tastes flat. The less salt that's consumed, just like sweet, the more that taste is enhanced.
Okay.
So you can tell, like, if you've been eating really clean, natural foods, you can tell if something's been processed. Like all of a sudden you eat something out of a can or fast food or something, you're like, whoa, that is salty. That's why that taste is heightened. Bitter can occasionally be appreciated when you're talking about dark chocolate or coffee. Mm-hmm. But usually it's not really appreciated. It's kind of it's a yucky taste. And it's thought that is because it's a survival mechanism.
Yes.
And that was developed to serve more as a warning of something that's inedible or unhealthy.
We'll get into that a little bit more.
Sweet. And then, not to be considered sugary sweet, I'm just excited. And then the fifth taste, quote unquote, the fifth taste is derived from a term that's used in Japanese cuisine called umami. There's not really a good straight across English word that translates, but it basically means savory. It comes from the Japanese word umai, which means delicious.
Delicious. Savory.
So umami flavors denote a richness or a fullness of an overall dish, a savory quality. It's often described as a meatiness. So think soy sauce.
Yeah.
Is described as an umami taste. It's sensed when you're tasting things like cheeses, meats, stock, again, soy sauce, mushrooms, even tomatoes and wine. So I think aged and fermented foods.
Okay.
That's your umami. Yes, Winter.
I'm raising my hand. So I have heard that umami is kind of compared to something called monosodium glutamate.
Yes.
And was there any discussion about that, what that particular compound was, is, and what typifies umami? Does that make sense? That's what I've heard. It's like monosodium glutamate is basically umami flavor. I was like, oh,
right.
okay.
Right. And you can actually buy monosodium glutamate at Asian markets usually. So umami is in the presence of several substances, and it includes the naturally occurring amino acid glutamate and its commercially produced counterpart, which is the MSG. So that amino acid, again, is found in a lot of cheeses and meat.
Okay, I see.
So those are the basics of tastes that form your palate. So we've got our building blocks. We know what flavor, mouthfeel, taste, palate are. We know what our 5 tastes are.
And then we're going to jump in a little bit. If I could jump in here, Sharon, and talk a little bit about the genetics and how that plays into kind of a few things that affect our lives and what we eat. First of all, let's start with, once again, a funny science discovery story that just cracks me up. So
I love those.
I know, they crack me up. So in 1931, there is a chemist, and his name is Arthur L. Fox, and he is working at DuPont. And there was a chemical he was working with, and it kind of puffed a little in the air when he was working with it. So there was it was kind of aerosolized in a sense, right? It just kind of puffed in the air when he was moving it around
Oh, okay.
And this particular chemical is called phenylthiocarbamide. Everybody refers to it as PTC. So phenylthiocarbamide. So he found that one of his coworkers that was in the area was like, oh, that is really a bitter taste. And Mr. Fox here was like, I don't taste anything. So he's like, there's got to be something going on here. So in some of the reports that I've read is that he asked other colleagues in the lab and family and friends to try it out, like taste a little of this chemical.
Oh, so taste this chemical. Tell me if it tastes bad.
If it tastes bitter or if it's tasteless to you. And he even went so far as to say there's a meeting in 1931 called the American Association for the Advancement of Science. And he collaborated with a geneticist, and his name was Albert F. Blakesley, and asked the attendees to try this out. as part of this meeting.
Oh my God.
I know, right? It just cracks me up some of the stuff that we do for science. Like,
Well, the advancement of science.
Yep.
Let's taste chemicals.
exactly. So
right.
65% of the people found it bitter, and 28% found it tasteless, and 6% described some other sort of qualities, just some outliers. So it just kind of piqued his interest, like there's something else going on here. And so it was later kind of discovered that there's a gene that specifically has receptors for kind of the bitter taste.
Oh, okay.
Yes. That particular gene is TAS2R38. Now, the interesting thing about this is it has two alleles, and alleles are kind of a form of the gene. They can either be tasting bitter or non-tasting at all. So that's why you kind of have a variation of what a family member may have.
So I think it tastes bitter and you don't think it tastes bitter.
Yeah, you definitely
You have a different allele of it.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
I thought this was such a fun little interesting story about how, the genetics of taste is taste is not just simply what you said, is that, it's just sweet, salty, bitter. What am I missing?
Sour
and umami, right? There's maybe some genetics involved where some of the stuff that is in food is going to react differently, and you're going to perceive it differently. Because I will tell you this right now, I have met some picky eaters.
Yes.
And I'm kind of a jerk, and I kind of judge people for that, because I like eat everything, right?
Yeah.
I eat everything. I'm totally fine with most everything. And so I was very interested in this particular area, because now I don't feel like, I was like, you know what? This might not be their fault. This might be genetics.
Yes. It took me a long time to figure out that maybe I shouldn't judge picky eaters.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing that kind of comes to mind, first of all, is cilantro, right?
Yep. It
Okay.
either tastes like soap or it doesn't.
Yeah. So, and I was like, really? Because I think cilantro is lovely. I think it is refreshing. I think it is very tasty, and it's so good with salsa and on Mexican food and in some
Citrus,
Vietnamese food.
peppery,
Yeah.
yum.
It just does it for me. And it sounds like it's good for you too.
I love it.
And then I have some people in my life that do not like it at all. And they will say, yep, it tastes like soap. It tastes very...
There's a Facebook group that is actually
What?
against cilantro. I just want to point out. But I'm not going to tell you what Facebook group that is,
Okay, I won't.
because
We
you
won't.
guys should like cilantro.
Sharon is judging people. I'm
No,
trying to be not
I'm
so
just trying
judgy.
to not. I'm just trying to give cilantro a good name.
Okay. So kind of going a little bit back. Let's first of all talk about that particular gene. So it has been shown there's some particular foods
Mm-hmm.
and drinks that those people that have this particular gene that have that in their genetics, they think it are much more bitter. And so I'm going to read off a couple of these. I'm curious to see if you think some of these are or not. Certain alcoholic beverages like gins and tequilas and
Yum.
like hoppy beers. So a lot of our from a particular group of vegetables. So the Brassica oleracea cultivars. So they have a lot of sulfur in them when you overcook them. So those
like Brussels sprouts.
Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and kale. So some people tend to taste that really bitter note there, and they think that's due to genetics. Grapefruit juice, that I think that has a little bit of bitter flavor, but I like it because it's usually balanced out with the sweetness. Personally, that's what I think.
Yeah, I like grapefruit juice, but it took me a really long time to like it.
Yeah. Soy products,
Love it.
carbonated water.
Mm-hmm.
You're like totally all over that.
Yep.
Anise and licorice.
Took me a long time to like actual black licorice flavor, but I do like it.
Okay. And green tea
Yep. Also,
and coffee. Actually, both of those.
Sometimes green tea is, so I like coffee, generally speaking, like coffee, even black.
Mm-hmm.
But green tea, I've had some where it's been super bitter, and I think it's because it's been, like we talked with Raylene, several episodes back now.
The tea episode.
Yeah. You can overcook the leaves.
Oh, yes. And then that can bring out the bitter notes
yes,
anyway.
Or steep it too long
yeah.
in the hot water, and that can bring out a little bit more of a high bitter note.
Right.
Anyway.
So there's so coffee and tea definitely can be kind of tricky for some people. Now, PTC, that's phenylthiocarpamide, is not found in nature, but there are other things that can be correlated to that kind of same
like
compound. I think just different plants and stuff like that. And it's been shown that animals, ones that eat vegetables, mainly vegetation for their diet, they have less of those kind of bitter genes. They don't taste as much because that's what they subsist on. Right?
Oh, right. They're subsisting on those naturally occurring lettuces and stuff like that.
And so they need to not be so picky of eaters because they're going to die.
Right.
Now, humans have a lot more of those. So I just brought up one particular gene, but they are starting to tease things out, and they say there's about 30 genes that are coding for the bitter taste. And so that really can affect how you are tasting things.
Interesting.
So a couple of things I thought was really interesting is that people that are a little bit more sensitive to that bitter taste generally don't smoke, because smoking can bring out that bitterness.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then those
the acrid smoke.
Yeah. And of course, those people that they don't really much like broccoli. That brings us to the next level.
I just have to say, I think that's funny because I don't smoke and I don't really like broccoli, but I like some of these
other things
bittery
that
types
are
of things.
I think the genetics of taste and your taste palette is very different depending on all the genes that play into it. So you could love some things. Like I said, I love grapefruit, but I do taste that bitter, but I love the sweet with it too. It has a very different flavor profile to me. So, okay, so let's talk about the next thing that I think is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of super tasters before?
No, not at all.
Really? Okay, let's talk about it then, because I think this is awesome. Super tasters are considered people that have a higher density of taste buds. On their tongue. And it's these taste buds or they're called fungiform papillae. How you see if you are a super taster is you get blue food coloring, basically. It's blue dye, number one, and a Q-tip, and you paint your tongue blue.
Okay.
And then you have to count how many of those little bumps that are there. And it's, if you have 30 or more in a 1/4 inch diameter, that's when you're considered a super taster. When you have painted your tongue blue.
And then you measure and count all of the taste buds within a 1/4 inch.
But I feel like this is not a good thing. As I've read more into this, I don't think being a super taster is all that great.
Oh, so they're special but not special.
No. Well, okay, think about this. What happens with super tasters is that they are able to detect a lot of just everything, right?
Yeah.
It's more heightened and everything. And, you know, we all kind of prize other, like, I have super good hearing or 20/20 vision.
Oh, sure.
No, I personally don't think I would be a super taster. I would not like that at all.
Well, because does that mean that every dish would have to be perfect?
No, not perfect. It would have to be kind of bland. Because
you're tasting too many things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so those, along with this being able to count how many, this fungiform papillae you have, you are able to taste something called PROP, P-R-O-P. It's 6N-propyl thiouracil, and it is really bitter, and it's actually used as a thyroid medication. So,
so if you can taste your thyroid medication.
Oh, wah, wah. So once again, these people they taste everything kind of super heightened. So like something might be like a regular tasting kind of maybe bland cookie might taste normal to them, but a regular like chocolate chip cookie, they might be like, ooh, that's too much. So they are perfectly happy having a couple of bites of a dessert and just, okay, that was good enough for me. Well, me, on the other hand, have to eat everything. I'm like, nope, I'm doing good.
Okay, I'm not a super taster.
Yeah,
I can
right?
tell you right now. So You know how when you have a really super rich chocolate dessert,
Yes.
really rich, like
Yes.
maybe a flourless chocolate cake.
Oh, yeah. From
People are like-
Gourmandies or something
Yeah.
like that.
People are like, oh, I need to drink a glass of milk with that. Nope.
Not for you.
I've never had to cut through any rich dessert ever.
You are not a super taster. So there's, like I said, there's a
I'm
couple.
just a glutton.
So there's a couple of things that you can tell. You can count how many of those kind of taste buds you have. You can see if you taste that prop, that chemical compound, and then maybe just kind of see what you eat and
Yeah.
what you like to eat.
If your favorite food is mashed potatoes with no butter
Yeah.
or gravy,
So
you could be a super taster.
you could be a super taster. And I think that there's still a lot of research being done about what is affecting these folks. But I do love a couple of these studies that have been done about super tasters. Those who are super tasters generally have better cholesterol. And which helps
ducks.
yeah, because it'll help reduce their risk of heart disease in the long run. They don't, first of all, I think they don't eat as much, like some of the rich, fattier things, because
Oh yeah, they're not eating as much crap as everybody else.
yeah, exactly. However, there's definitely some skeptics out there saying, super tasters though could actually be at greater risk because the things that could help them prevent something like colon cancer, those bitter vegetables, they don't eat as much because they're not appealing to them.
They're not eating like the dark green cruciferous vegetables.
Yep.
Because they're too bitter.
Yep.
Yeah.
One thing I did find was very, very interesting from this Monell Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia, that babies that have been exposed to things that are a little bit more bitter, so like a carrot juice, which can have a little, it's sweet, but there's also, it's not the sweetest thing. It's not
Sure.
orange juice, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they've never had anything up until, like, for example, what they used was 7-month-old babies that have never had anything really bitter or anything like
it's
that.
their first introduction to food.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
They will generally wrinkle up their face like they do not like it in disgust.
Oh.
But those babies that were introduced to a more bitter formula, like when they were younger, actually were happy to eat it later on down the line. So
How much later?
like 7 months. So like if they were at 4 months, they were introduced to a bitter formula, like they were given something that was a little bit on the bitter side in what they drank. And then at 7 months, they were introduced a bitter food. Like those.
So they're more open to eating it later because they've tried it already.
Yep. And they're a little bit more used to it. So I think it's
Okay.
not all genetics, right? I feel like it's your environment as well and what you've been introduced to, because there are some things that I will eat that Lee will be like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, that's why I think too, that makes sense to me because of my experience with grapefruit juice.
Mm-hmm.
My dad loves unsweetened grapefruit juice. The
sour, kind of way
pucker
bitter.
your-
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even smelling it will pucker your mouth.
Yeah.
And he used to give that to me when I was a little kid and I hated it. So gross. But he would like make me drink these little tin cans of it that he loved with the little peel off sticker.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I totally love those.
Yeah, that was
You
his
did not
favorite thing
love
and I
that.
hated them. But if I pounded one of those cans, then I would get like a reward. And so, but now I really like grapefruit juice. Still my favorite is like ruby red kind of grapefruit juice, the really sweet stuff.
A little sweeter, yeah.
Yeah, but I also appreciate the sour grapefruit.
Do you?
juice. Yeah. Yeah, I would drink one of those cans now, like of my own free will.
Of my own free will. Now you bring up a really good point, because taste or things that we have maybe an aversion to could be due to like the emotion that's attached to it. And like you said, oh, this was a chore. This was kind of a bad experience, right?
Right.
Because I think of when I was a kid and I didn't like ginger, because ginger is a really powerful, like
it's
potent
super
flavor.
potent.
And my dad, he would cut pieces of ginger that were like dime nickel size, right? And put it into stir fries.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I mean, he would put it in the oil to kind of like when it was warming up and everything.
So it infuses.
And infuse it. Yep. But it would still be in the stir fry and he would tell us to eat it. And I was like, it was, and I did not like ginger for a long, long time. And I know I'm going to get docked Asian points for that, but I'm just saying,
Sorry, Spencer.
I'm just saying that it was a long time before I've like really loved ginger again. And I love ginger now. So I think there's a lot of food and flavors can also be tainted by some of your memories as well.
Tainted by memories or heightened, you know, in a good way by memories as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it was interesting. I was having a discussion with somebody on Facebook about sea beans. And
what are sea beans?
Sea beans they're part of this family of vegetables, and they grow in like salty, marshy areas, and they are like a poor man's asparagus is what they've been described.
Oh, okay.
And this person that I was chatting with, she's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know what they were called. And so I'm going to try and look for them now. And because I've had them once before, and I was like, oh, they're that good. And she's like, yeah, but I'm really worried that my experience, like what I've built it up in my mind, is going to be disappointing when I have them again.
Oh,
right. So, because that also happens too, because then you kind of like build up what you remember eating when you were a kid, and then all of a sudden you have it again. You're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, that was terrible. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's kind of the basic genetics, and I thought that was really interesting. Some of the genes that play into all of this, and I want to just say I'm really trying hard not to be so judgmental anymore. I think you should too, Sharon, because I think we're both pretty judgy.
Because we have superior genes, or less superior
we
genes
have less
because we are not super tasters.
Yeah, we are less superior, and I am fine having run-of-the-mill genes in regards to taste.
And I'm sorry for all my friends who like bland food.
Yeah, because they think that tastes perfectly fine. I mean, that's exactly what is delightful to them is bland food, because it's not too strong.
Yeah. I'm sorry, guys.
It's so fun to see how tastes come together and kind of what combinations you can do with tastes and how it may affect who you are and how you can affect other people. And so I just think there's some fun stuff that you can do with flavors.
Oh yeah. I love creating different flavor combinations. I found this book on Ike's shelf recently called The Flavor Bible.
Ooh.
And it talks about different ingredients, different foods, and how you can create different flavor profiles with those foods. And so it goes kind of from A to Z. Mm-hmm. It's like a dictionary of sorts.
So wait, does it like pair certain things together and say you should try this because it'll bring out blah notes?
It doesn't really say it'll bring out certain notes, but it talks about for an ingredient, it'll give you like nutmeg, and it talks about what season it's good in.
I bet it's
like
autumn.
It's seasonal. Yeah, autumn to winter.
Yes.
It says the taste is sweet. Its botanical relative is mace. Its weight of the actual nutmeg is light to medium. Mm-hmm. And the volume of the flavor is loud. So, and it rates the flavor volume from quiet to loud.
And that's just by like how much you put in it, and you're like, bow. It's something that
the
kind of
potency
sinks
of the
through.
flavor for the particular ingredient.
That's kind of a fun way to
describe it.
To describe it, yeah.
So, and then for tips, it says to use it in moderation. And then it gives suggestions as to good pairings. And so some of the best suggestions are cheese and cheese dishes, cream and milk, desserts, eggnog, and then some of the like second tier down, still really great suggestions are like chicken, custards, Indian cuisine, lamb, pasta sauces, puddings, pumpkin. Those are good combinations for it.
Pasta sauces and nutmeg.
My favorite use for nutmeg, and I keep whole nutmeg at my house and I grate it on my microplate, is I like to eat Annie's mac and cheese, the aged cheddar. That's like my favorite snack.
With some of this
nutmeg. And I grate nutmeg on top of it.
Oh, I'm going to have to try that.
Because it's got this sweet and peppery flavor when you put it on. It's awesome.
And it probably counters a little of that creaminess that...
Yeah, it kind of cuts through it.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's cool. This flavor Bible, it talks about how different flavors of things. It describes cilantro as lemony, citrusy, and a high note. And then
to some people,
yeah, with the gene that they have, that it tastes pleasant.
Yeah.
But it talks about, I like how it talks about creating new flavors. And there is no such thing as we have all of the flavors. There's nothing else. It gives the example of avocado.
Okay.
And how if you put an avocado in a centrifuge, you can separate the water out of the fat.
Okay.
And so then you have this avocado flavored water, which doesn't taste exactly like an avocado because there's no fat.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take that water and combine it with another fat, say a brown butter, right? And then you put it with fish, maybe. You've got this really interesting new flavor.
A different flavor.
So it's not quite like avocado because you've got the brown butter in there.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of fun.
Yeah, that is.
So it kind of
really
teaches you how to play with your food. So,
in a good way.
In a good way.
Kind of stretch your boundaries, I think. That's kind of a fun. I was trying to think of how avocado water with brown butter, because I feel like brown butter is a very distinct, I feel like that is a little bit louder in the spectrum of quiet to loud.
Could be. I mean, it's still a little bit subtle.
Mm-hmm.
When you pair it with other things, like if you make brown butter, again, chocolate chip cookies,
Mm-hmm.
that is a more distinctive flavor.
Yes.
Than just your regular chocolate chip cookie. It's got a nuttiness to it.
Mm-hmm.
But depending on how browned, I guess, you let the butter get, it can still be slightly subtle. So kind of fun.
Yeah, that is really fun.
Play with your food, people.
Play with your food. Now, I would like to open it up to the listeners here then. I want to know if you like cilantro or not. Do you consider yourself a super taster?
Yeah, I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, because I know a couple of people they generally stick to the bland foods. They don't like bananas because they consider them very bitter. And I was like, gosh, I think they're a super taster.
Sad.
Yeah. Bananas, tomatoes, onions. Yeah. They just stay away from some of those flavors. I want to know what you guys are. Are you a super taster? Are you run-of-the-mill tasters like me?
Join the club.
Yay! Eat normal food. Just kidding. Okay. That was not very nice, but
we have water for the rest of you.
Yes. Okay. We're trying to not be judgy. Remember?
I'm just being funny.
Oh, okay.
Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. It's winter.
This is a segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts, but you should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Okay, Sharon, who's our question from this week?
Okay, the question reads, Hi H2 ladies. Do you have any recommendations of homemade holiday treats to give to neighbors, coworkers, etc. that won't be expensive to make and gift? And then it's signed, Thank you for not breaking my bank.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, we are kind of getting into that time of the year, aren't we?
Yeah. Everybody needs a gift.
Everybody needs a gift. And so maybe we should start first of all. Does everybody need a gift?
Well, do they?
Do they?
I like to give gifts to, and like treats to neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if I move to a new place and I need to get to know my neighbors. I think that's a great way to get to know them, is just dropping a little homemade something off.
Right.
I think with treats, that's a great way to show your coworkers, maybe your boss, some appreciation, but you could do it in bulk. Like just bring treats for everybody one day.
And just say, thanks.
I like to give my hairdresser.
Your hairdresser.
I never see and I need to see more. But when I do see her, especially during holidays, I like to give her like something.
Okay.
So just because, I tip her and I tip her well, because you should always do that for people who provide a service, especially like that when they're making you pretty. But
it's always nice
great.
to be pretty.
Yeah, I like to, I know some people that give it to their mailman.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you give
I
stuff
don't
to your
know
mailman?
who my mailman is. And right now I actually use a post office box.
Oh, okay.
I think it might be awkward if I took that into the post office.
I think we could probably give one to our mailman. I've never really talked to him, but occasionally I'll see him as he's dropping off the mail and he always waves and it's very nice.
But I mean, if you're an Amazon Prime user, you are probably good friends with your UPS man, right?
Or FedEx man, whatever, however it's coming. This time of the year, I think I run into this problem too, because I know a lot of people and I have kind of a lot of different circles that I run in.
Right.
And you want to be nice and give stuff. And then I have guilt too.
But you don't have to give stuff to everybody. I mean, your goodwill can go a long way.
It's true.
Kindness can go a long way.
But I have guilt, Sharon. I have guilt. We're getting into the first part of December here. And people, I can promise you, things are going to start showing up on our doorstep. Like a little gift, a little plate of cookies, a little whatever happens to me. And I just have guilt because I'm like, I need to give them something back.
Well, I mean,
how do I get over that? Can I get out? Okay. I don't know if we're answering her question. Sorry. I had interjected my question.
Well, it's because you feel guilty.
I do feel guilty.
I think you just need to kind of set your boundaries and set your priorities. Know when to say no. Sometimes you're going to get a gift that maybe you didn't plan for. And sometimes, I mean, I've known some people who thankfully, I don't think I have been in this situation, but I know people who have received unexpected, expensive gifts from people.
Oh, that would make me feel even more guilty.
And depending on the situation, that can necessitate going out and buying something for someone.
Something nice.
But just like a plate of cookies on the doorstep is like, I think that's just kind of, it's a great gesture. It's so kind and nice, but I don't think that means that you need to go out and do, the 1 mile loop in your neighborhood and drop off candy at everybody's house.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. I think it's fine. So that's just me.
When I think of gifts to give, I feel like in order to give yourself, and this is, I did this one year where it was like, oh my gosh, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy to do this. So our Lee's family makes chocolates, hand dipped chocolates. They make the fondant centers on the marble slab. They dip we get a chocolate dipper that does the pretty designs on the top and everything. It's like pretty fancy. There were a couple of years that we were not able to do that, and I kind of felt guilty about it. We were just like, you know what? We can't do it. Like, we can't do anything else. So I think one gift that we did one year was we purchased bulk, some of those like sparkling apple ciders.
Oh yeah.
Jars, and just put some ribbon on it. And I really think it was like $2 a bottle. It was really cheap. So when we could bring those over, it was like, oh,
you put some ribbon on it and there you go.
And it's good.
It's a great gift.
You don't have to use it right away. So people didn't necessarily have to get sugared out, because there's a lot of sugar that is brought over to people. And
oh yeah, tons of sugar is consumed in the holidays. pounds and pounds.
So we thought that was, that's of course sugar in a liquid form, but they could use it later. Like, they can save it for the new year.
Right. New Year's, Valentine's, whatever.
So that was my way to beat guilt one year. And I felt like it was really easy and cheap, and just, you have to just find those. It's not alcohol. So there's not really, because alcohol is expensive.
Right.
But those little apple cider things generally are pretty cheap. So
yeah. And everybody can use it somehow as a mixer, or just, just enjoy it as it is. It's great.
Yeah. What do you give to people?
So when I do decide to give, I usually make something that's like, if I want to give treats.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll just make something in bulk and plan out, like, I'll go to the dollar store and get some packaging.
Some of the cute packaging.
Yeah. And just say, okay, I'm going to make, like, one year I made these turtles, these pretzel turtles. Mm-hmm. So the pretzel and like a chocolate covered caramel candy, you could just kind of melt it down on the pretzel a little bit, and then you press a nut into it.
Easy
Super
peasy.
Easy
And cute.
You can find that on Pinterest, I'm sure, or it's all over the internet. Pretzel turtles. But I just got some inexpensive packaging from the dollar store and just put handfuls of those in the inexpensive packaging and was good to go.
Perfect.
I mean, mason jars work well for this type of stuff, but so does like cellophane, like the pretty colored cellophane and some
a little curling ribbon.
You know,
goes a long way.
Just so you can put like some caramel popcorn in that, different things like that.
Ooh, I have an idea. Marshmallows. Have you ever made your own marshmallows?
No, but I know you have.
Yes. That's a really good one because you mix it all up, let the mixer do all the work, and then when you're ready, spread it into kind of a pan, and then you cut it up into whatever size you want, and you could dip them in chocolate or put fun candies on them and put them on a stick.
Oh, see, that's awesome. and people can eat it that way, like a cake pop.
Exactly.
Or they could dip it in their hot chocolate.
And you really can, it goes a long way. Like it really, you can make a ton of marshmallows from a batch or two, and you just do it in one night and you're done, and then just package everything up. So think of things that could easily, you could do bulk. Like I like the idea of caramel popcorn because that is, I think that would be easy peasy.
Or candied popcorn. Like you could just make popcorn and drizzle chocolate over it. Really easy. Like caramel or chocolate. Like you don't even have to make the full on caramel candy that, you need to douse it in. You could just do a drizzle.
Yeah. And that's
really easy. Like you could just use your microwave for that kind of stuff.
So I think that's a couple of good ideas. Oh, one other thing I think is a fun idea. We had a couple of really good friends. They're married to each other, and one year we were like inundated with sugar things and sugar food type things. And they brought us a little Christmas ornament. It was a disco ball.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was so cute. And they put a little ribbon, a red and green ribbon on it. And it was really cute. And I was like, we have it on our Christmas tree every year now. And it was one of those things where I was like, yes, there was some goodwill there. And it was probably something that she could buy really quickly, put a ribbon on, put a little note. And it was one less sugar thing that I was going to eat, consume, and forget about,
Yeah. And along those lines, how ugly sweater parties are super popular.
Yes.
So I have one of my best friends. She collects and exchanges every year with another family ugly Christmas ornaments.
Oh, really?
Yes. And so I love finding her ugly Christmas ornaments.
Because you just remember, oh, this is from her.
Yeah. I mean, she has, so I got her one year, it was this glass cow in a bathing suit with a life preserver. And it's large. It's like a few inches. Like it's pretty large. And that usually goes on the front of her tree.
That is awesome.
But you can find like kitschy kind of fun holiday stuff like that too.
That are pretty inexpensive, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you can find some of that stuff at the dollar store.
Yeah. So. Or things on clearance because, they start Christmas stuff after Halloween. So it's probably on clearance right now. So go look.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I think those are a couple of good ideas. I would like to hear what other people do to take off the load of stress from their holiday plate. And also show that little bit of goodwill and gesture to their neighbors and friends.
Yeah. Tell us what you've got.
And what's worked.
Comment in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thanks for joining us today for our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. And hit subscribe so you can subscribe to our podcast and it will download automatically to whatever device you're listening on.
Every Monday. So we appreciate you guys coming and joining us for our weekly episode of Food Nerdery.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.
What do elves make bread with? Oh, that's not it.